invited guests? Okay.
Where?
How's it sound?
other cards that I brought there. I have the other cards.
If you would quiet yourselves, prepare to be seated, silence your cell phones or any kind of electronic devices that you might have. Thank you, Soars. As the dais guests come in, if you would rise when they come in. Thank you very much.
Because I had to get close on it. I had to. You don't have to. I mean, no, we got, because I'll, you know, the wide shot. My wide, yeah, because I can get, my wide shot is here. If I go in sugar.
Find your seats, silence your phones as we prepare to receive our dais participants.
our Supreme Bacillus, Sir Dorothy Buchanan Wilson, members of the Directorate, to our former Supreme Bacilli, and all others who serve Alpha Kappa Alpha, good afternoon, Soras. Good afternoon. In 1908, Sora Ethel Hedgeman Lyle observed of her surroundings the need for an organization to be of service to society. She gathered a cohort of like-minded young women, just one generation removed from slavery. These women possessed high academic, ethical, and moral standard, demonstrated supreme leadership, embodied incredible linguistic and performing arts talent, and exuded a level of humility, generosity, and love that only an Alpha Kappa Alpha woman could possess. Now, 11 decades later, the vision of Sir Ethel Hedgeman Lyle has grown from the small group of 16 women to nearly 300,000 Alpha Kappa Alpha members worldwide. Yes, that's the word. Her vision, sincere and rare, became the catalyst for not only Alpha Kappa Alpha, but for legions of women around the world who would embark on what today we know as the Women's Organization Movement. It is an honor to welcome you to this, the Ethel Hedgeman Lyle Stamp event, and to set the occasion. She deserves a stamp. 110 years is a tremendous accomplishment. For context, consider this fact. There are about 100 living supercentenarians as old as or older than 110 years around the world. However, while scores of groupings for women existed in the early 1900s, few have survived and thrived for 100 years or more. With this exception, of course, being our beloved Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, thus the reason for this occasion. Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority is the first of its kind to reach this monumental milestone of 110 years. Our sisterhood, led by our visionary principal founder, Sir Ethel Hedgeman Lyle, has served as the prototype for women's organizations around the globe. You know that. I believe Sir Ethel envisioned Alpha Kappa Alpha's eventual global reach and impact when she stated, "The spirit of Alpha Kappa Alpha hovers over us, and our little deeds and acts, smoothing here, covering there, broadening yonder. It is a force bigger than we are, stronger than we are, and it compels us to climb to the heights where it dwells." I believe that she would be filled with pride beyond measure at all that we have accomplished over 11 decades, 110 years. Alpha Kappa Alpha continues to be a leader at the forefront of movements for the betterment of society, such as gender equality, civil rights, access to quality education for all, affordable health care, and much more. Fewer than 20 women of color have been recognized and honored with a commemorative stamp. As Madam Supreme has stated, Ethel Hedgeman Lyle's vision is most deserving due to her impactful and enduring legacy as a trailblazer, philanthropist, and a committed public servant. What makes her noteworthy, even among such auspicious company, is that her early 20th century legacy lives on through the modern-day 21st century women's organizational movement. In time for the 131st anniversary of Sir Ethel's birth last year, Alpha Kappa Alpha collected more than 110,000 signatures petitioning the U.S. Postal Service Commission to issue a commemorative stamp. Soros, the application is in. And we must continue our pursuit of this extraordinary recognition of our beloved founder. I asked, that you not lose sight of this mission that we celebrate on this occasion, the future unveiling of the Ethel Hedgeman Lyle Commemorative Stand. Sorors, this project deserves your support, your love, and your care. Sorors, she deserves a stamp. Thank you. Sorry.
Madam Supreme Basilisk, good afternoon, sorors.
Good afternoon.
I am Soror Sharon M. Bowman, Chairman, International Protocol Committee, and I am honored to introduce our special guest. The sorority has a number of members who have traveled from all over the country to be with us this afternoon. At this time, we would like to recognize those special guests that are seated in our audience. As I call your group, if you would please stand to be recognized. Would all golden and diamond sorors please stand? Let's recognize all our international committee members. Would all our former director members and former executive directors please stand? The International Committee Chairman, would you stand? In addition, we would like to recognize our Executive Director, Soror Cynthia D. Howe, and our Deputy Director, Soror Nicole Barrett. Would all of our director members seated in the audience please stand? And now it is my distinct pleasure to present the distinguished members of the dais. Soror Stacy Magnum, Chairman, Stamp Event Committee. Sorors, if you would hold your applause until the end, I thank you. Soror Sophia Nelson, award-winning author and MSNBC commentator. Soror Glenda Baskin Glover, First Supreme Anti-Basilisk. Soror Kenise Y. Gray, Second Supreme Anti-Basilisk. Soror Tracy Baker, Founders Day Chairman. Soror Caitlin Coleman, soloist. Please rise as we greet our former Supreme Basilisk, Soror Faye Beverly Bryant, 21st Supreme Basilisk, Alpha Kappa Sorority Incorporated, Houston, Texas. Soror Norma Solomon White, 25th Supreme Basilisk, Jacksonville, Florida. And now, the First Lady of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, our Supreme Basilisk, Soror Dorothy Buchanan Wilson from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Thank you, sir.
Madam Supreme Basilisk, good afternoon, sorors. Good afternoon. Thank you, Soror Mavis, for that wonderful introduction. Good afternoon, sorors. I am Soror Tracy Baker, a member of Xi Omega Chapter in Washington, D.C. And I am honored to serve as the 2018 National Founders Day Chairman. On behalf of the hostess chapters, we would like to thank Madam Supreme Dorothy Buchanan Wilson for the awesome opportunity to serve. All of the hard work and preparation for this 110th Founders Day celebration has been part of a wonderful collaboration and a labor of Alpha Kappa Alpha love. Our reward is your presence here today. Please now welcome our soror, Caitlin Coleman, from Eta Eta Omega Chapter, and enjoy her musical selection. Let us prepare ourselves, our hearts, and our minds for the meditation. In the Old Testament of the Holy Bible, Esther emerged as a brave and beautiful Jewish heroine, selected to be queen of the Persian king Ahasuerus. This story has been told many times throughout the decades. Based on the advice of her cousin Mordecai, Queen Esther learns and comes to accept that she was called for such a time as this, to save her people from Haman's plot to kill all of the Jews in the Persian Empire.
We later learned that after Queen Esther's appointment, the king was so pleased, he created a feast to celebrate Queen Esther. Queen Esther deserved a celebration. In 1908, Ethel Hedgeman Loud sought to establish an organization known as Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Because of her visionary efforts and the efforts of our founders, this organization has persisted for 110 years, serving all mankind. Historians will tell you that through this organization's service initiatives, it has empowered people we serve in the areas of education and scholarship, health promotion, family strengthening, environmental awareness, and global impact. So today, we celebrate founder Ethel Hedgeman Loud, who was called for such a time as this at Howard University. To celebrate her, we will discuss and talk about her visionary concept that has established an organization for college-trained women and a dream turned reality that has inspired women's organizations around the world. We believe she deserves a stamp. So tomorrow, our sisterhood will continue to live out her legacy as we look at the educational, health, family welfare, environmental, and global aspects of our world today. Let us ask ourselves, as Alpha Kappa Alpha women, what are we called to do? Where are we called to serve? Who are we called to help? This legacy supreme has been left to us to ensure its perpetuity. Let's answer the call by taking our rightful place in the sisterhood and service. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this call of sisterhood and service. We are grateful that you sent our founders to create an organization grounded in service. May each member of our sorority answer the call to shine our light as a beacon to help others. As we assemble to celebrate this 110th Founders Day, we ask that you provide your continued grace, your guidance, and inspiration to ensure that we achieve a legacy supreme in service to all mankind. This we ask in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
We don't like to say in Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority that our next guest does not require an introduction, because we always like to take time to welcome and to introduce our guests. Many of you know our sorority sister, Sophia Nelson, because she's been in Alpha Kappa Alpha for a number of years. She's an active member. Many of you know her from her book, The Woman's Code. Many of you know her from coming to workshops and seminars at Leaderships and Boulets, where she's a frequent presenter. She's been to our board meeting and conducted board training. And she has a new book out right now, and I'll let her tell you about that, because it speaks to the times that we live in terms of what's happening in this nation. She is an award-winning journalist, she's a lawyer, she's a columnist, but more importantly, she is on television, challenging everything with everyone. Is it MSNBC that you're on all the time? For those of us who are news junkies, we know. We go out there, if something's happening, Sarah Sophia would text and say, I can't talk today, I'm on my way to get on the air. And so when I was looking for someone who had strong roots and strong connections in Washington, D.C. to help us take the stamp project, the next leg of the journey, because as you know, it's not something that we can approve. It has to come through Washington, D.C. Our application is at the Postmaster General's office, but It's just that, it's an application there. Now the real work begins in terms of moving this project to the next level. We wanted a dynamo to help us move it through the process in Washington, D.C., help us make the appropriate connections to members of Congress. Our sorority sisters who are members of Congress are sharing a great part of that heavy lifting. But at the end of the day, a lot of folks who don't necessarily look like us and they're the same sex as we are, they have to sign off on this. I'm talking about male members of Congress, and you don't know what I'm talking about. And so we're going to have to be there on the front lines doing the work. This is a project, and I'll talk about it in a minute, that has now spanned about 4 to 5 Supreme Vassally administrations. And so there's a lot of work yet still to be done. But the person that has been entrusted to carry the flame forward in terms of helping us coordinate the next leg of the race is our Soror Sophia Nelson. So would you please help me give her a warm Alpha Kappa Alpha greeting for the work that she is doing and that she will be doing for us as we move the Unveiling Wow STEM project forward. Soror Sophia.
Say that I love Madam Supreme. Not just because of her kind words. She's just give her another round of applause. Sorors, I am so humbled and honored to be here. I don't get emotional very much. For those of you that know me, know that's true. I'm kind of, machine, political, focused, author. I just do what I do. But this project has been very humbling to work on, and this team is amazing, and we're very excited, as Madam Supreme said, about the next leg of the journey. But my job here today is not to talk to you about my books, because y'all can read all that online. And Madam, thank you for always supporting everything I do. That means a lot to me, and it means a lot that we lift each other as we climb. But my job today is to talk to you and to give you the charge, I think, for a very unique time, as our minister here said, for such a time as this. Sorors, I don't need to tell you that we, as Americans and as Black women, are living in unique and challenging times. Our country needs us, and most importantly, we need one another. I rise today to charge you and to charge us to remember from whence we came. I came to remind you of who we Alpha Kappa Alpha women are. We as Black women, once again, must be the lifeblood and the backbone of our great nation. We must be the uniters. We must be the visionaries. We must be bold enough to shape elections at the ballot box when others vote against their own and our nation's best interests. And we must be bold enough to keep the American family, in the words of Jay-Z, from feuding. Soror Ethel Hedgeman Lyle was a brave change agent. Some say a woman ahead of her time, but I say she was right on time.
All right.
Imagine life. I want you to close your eyes for a moment and just get still. And imagine life as a Black woman in 1900. In 1905 or in 1908, 110 years ago. Imagine the courage and the resilience it took to be her. She rose up at a time when American culture was rife with racism, sexism, and very limited opportunities for women, and even more from women of color existed. But despite her humble roots and humble upbringing, something remarkable happened. She took her vision of combining scholastic merit, personal achievement, and a rich historic African-American culture to create, hold on to that word, to create a women's collegiate service-based organization that has lasted 110 years. And we of this time, we, the collective we, Alpha Kappa Alpha, of this time intend to see that she is rightly honored among her peers, even though, truth be told, she was ahead of her peers. Soror Ethel Hedgeman Lyle was one of those rare individuals who brought her vision to life in a way that has continued well past her own lifetime. Her efforts to unite women around shared interests and a common cause served as the model upon which many of today's, now listen to this, this is important because I think we missed this. I'm going to say this again. She created a model upon which many of today's organized women's service groups were and are being formed. Her devotion to serving all mankind, not just some, all mankind, is another hallmark of her character and belief in the American spirit, despite living in Jim Crow America. And it is because of her life's work and her subsequent rich legacy, both of which confirm her as a notable history maker and shaper, that Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated has presented Ethel Hedgeman Lyle for consideration to be featured on a 2019-2020 United States Postal Service Forever postage stamp. The sorority's leadership under Madam Supreme Dorothy Buchanan Wilson has been hard at work since early last year to develop a She Deserves a Stamp campaign to honor Soror Lyle. Many Americans may not know Ethel Hedgeman Lyle's name as they do other U.S. postage stamp honorees. But we should all know her story. A story that was instrumental in creating a positive culture change in how Americans both viewed and engaged Black women of her time. By championing high academic standards and service to raise up her people and make them better, Lyle was an education champion and the creative force behind the collegiate and post-collegiate model for sisterhood and service. Hedgeman Lyle, like the 15 African American women who have been honored by the United States Postal Service before her, including Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Ida B. Wells, Shirley Chisholm, Althea Gibson, Dr. Maya Angelou, and Dr. Dorothy Height, is most deserving of the same commemoration due to her impactful and enduring legacy as a trailblazer, philanthropist, and committed public servant. But what makes her noteworthy, even among such auspicious company, is that her early 20th century, now think of this again, I'm going to take you back. Go back to the turn of the century. We're in the 21st century of women of color as Black women, and we know how hard it is. She's living in the turn of the 20th century. It was as the creator of the Friendship Service organizational prototype, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, founded in 1908, that Hedgeman Lyle distinguished herself most. You know, when we were doing the stamp, there were a lot of people that were encouraging us. They said, well, don't put the AKA thing out there because that's not why she should be honored with a stamp. I disagree. The idea of Black women coming together for mutual benefit and uplift in the 1900s was unheard of. By following through on her passion, Lyle began to redefine the opportunities and possibilities for women like herself. By forming Alpha Kappa Alpha, she sparked a movement for several other Black women's Greek-lettered organizations. We were the first. She and her vision sparked most certainly Delta Sigma Theta, Zeta Phi Beta, and Sigma Gamma Rho. And most certainly was the spark for other like-minded groups, including the Links Incorporated, the National Council of Negro Women, and I could go on and on and on. Folks, in the Bible it says where there is no vision, the people perish. Soror Her visionary DNA is at the cornerstone of these groups, and don't ever let them forget it. She may not have founded them all, but there can be no dispute that it was her mindset to empower women of color in the early 1900s that has left an unmatched footprint in the women's empowerment movement in these United States. For more than a century, these groups have pioneered and sustained campaigns to promote equality and justice across a broad spectrum, from education and health to human rights and environmental justice. Most importantly, these groups have informed, energized, and empowered millions of youth, women, and families. Hence, we seek a 2019-2020 United States postage stamp honoring Ethel Hedgeman Lau. The woman behind the movement is much deserved and most justified. Thank you, Soros.
And now, sorors, it's time for your call to action. Please welcome to our podium our illustrious, hardworking, dedicated, Supreme Basilisk, Dr. Dorothy Buchanan Wilson.
Thank you. Before we move on, we have to thank those who in the vineyards doing the work. So let me do that before we do anything else. Would you please warmly receive, and I would like Victor Powell and this group to take a picture of this hard-working committee, the International Archives Committee, and Sarah Mavis, would you join your team down front so that you can get your photo? Let's receive them. They look wonderful and they're working hard. So International Archives Committee, please come down front so that we might see you. Thank you so much. Again, let us warmly greet the International Archives Committee. And don't they look wonderful today? They show us we can look good while you're doing the work of trying to get this stamp through. Take your badges off, Soros. Thank you so much. And the charge by Sora Sophia Nelson, now you know why we asked her to help us lead the charge on Capitol Hill. Let's give Sora Sophia another round of applause. Thank you so much, Sora Sophia. Thank you so much. And as I call your name, we would like members of, thank you, International Archives Committee, we appreciate you. I would like members of the directorate to come and stand in the same spot so that you might see and greet your directorate, the members of the LNDS team, starting with our second Supreme Antibacillus, who's seated up front, but I wanted you to acknowledge her again. First Supreme Antibacillus, Soror Glenda Baskin Glover. Our second Supreme Antibacillus, Soror Denise Gray. Our Supreme Grammatist, Soror Charlotta Wilson Jackson. Would you please come down front, Soror, so that the Sorors can see that you're here and in place. Our Supreme Tapioca, Soror Danette Anthony Reed. Our Supreme Parliamentarian, Soror Martha Perrine Beard. Our undergraduate member at large, Soror Princess Faith. I'm drawing a block here. Singleton, she was on the Building and Properties Committee, and now she's undergraduate member at large. Soror Victoria Simpson could not be here. You know she's in graduate school, so we will certainly acknowledge her presence. And then the North Atlantic Regional Director, Soror Meredith L. Henderson. The Mid-Atlantic Regional Director, Soror Joyce Henderson. The South Atlantic Regional Director, Soror Sharon Brown Harriet. Great Lakes Regional Director, Soror Tony S. Kendrick. The Southeastern Regional Director, Soror Mary Connor. The South Central Regional Director, Soror Katina M. Semien. Soror Kathy Walker Steele, the Central Regional Director. Soror Jan M. Carpenter Baker, Midwestern Regional Director. Soror Carol R. Dixon, the Far Western Regional Director. Gazette L. Santa Gator Thomas, International Regional Director. Let us receive our directorate. Thank you so much, sorors and members of the Board of Directors of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority. Be careful, soror, London. The floor is sticky. Thank you. And you have already acknowledged, but let us acknowledge again our former Supreme Basilee, starting with the 21st Supreme Basilee, Sora Faye Beverly Bryant, who came in from Houston, Texas to be with us. Norman Solomon White, our 25th Legacy Supreme Basilee. Thank you. We mentioned earlier that Soror Eva Lois Evans was on her way. Soror Carolyn House Stewart could not be here this weekend because her daughter, Soror Delcia Stewart, received her JD degree. She will be graduating from law school tomorrow. Celebrating that evening on Saturday. And Soror Matilda B. Grace, please keep not only Soror Matilda, but our first honeydew, original honeydew, Horace Grace, keep him in your prayers. The flu bug tried to catch up with them, but you know they move quickly, but they're recovering, and so she sends her warmest wishes, and we promise that we will send her pictures of everything that's going on here in Washington, D.C., but our 18th Supreme Basileus will not be able to be here with us this weekend, but it's only because she's taking care of our treasured first honeydew, so we want to acknowledge them. And then to all sorors assembled, good afternoon and welcome to your home away from home, Washington, D.C., home of Howard University, the birthplace of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, and our first chapter, Alpha Chapter. Welcome. Back in the early 1990s, under the leadership of 23rd Supreme Basileus Soror Mary Shai Scott, and then on to the 24th Supreme Basileus Soror Eva Lois Evans, significant work went into the idea of establishing a stamp in honor of our founder, Soror Ethel Hedgeman Lyle. When the Launching New Dimensions of Service team came into office, we decided that the time was again right to advance the idea of having mail delivered all over the world stamped with the image of our organizing founder. This effort kicked off again at the 67th Boule in Atlanta, and we received 10,000 signatures there. Now, you were having a great time in Atlanta, but you found time to sign the petitions, and we thank you for that. Last year, we said, let us use our 109th Founders Day commemoration in partnership with the International Archives Committee and also the regional directors to collect remaining signatures. We set a goal. We were asked to collect 50,000, and we said, we'll collect 110,000 in honor of our 110th anniversary to show them that we're serious. We collected roughly 113,000 signatures. So give yourselves a round of applause. And so for the past year, we spent, actually the past 6 months, once we collected those signatures, then we had the awesome job of authenticating as many as we could, documenting, binding those up, and we sent out, you received a number of communications showing you what we were doing so that you could see that those signatures were delivered to the United States Postal Service along with our application. We are using this weekend and the upcoming year to generate momentum, congressional interest, and approval of this significant project. Do we have the website preview ready to show the members at this time? Because a part of what we have to do now is put up a website, generate interest, have a portal through which members can go out and view what is going on with the sorority. Indeed, what you're seeing are screenshots. Actually, I think it's a live website, if I'm not mistaken. So this is what it will look like, my sorors, in terms of the website. As members come out there to take a look at the application packet will be there, along with all the other documents that we submitted in support of the application. And I know down here the internet connection does not work as well as it should. So as you get that up, we'll have you just put it up so that the sorors can see it. But we wanted to share that and unveil that with you today. So we are using this weekend and the upcoming year to generate momentum, congressional interest, and approval of this significant project. Note, I did not say this Alpha Kappa Alpha project, I said this significant project, because we believe, and we have always advanced the idea, as you heard Soror Sophia and others up here say today, that the pioneering work of Soror Ethel Hedgeman Lyle and our extraordinary founders is not only our history, but it is the history and story of African American women who, despite the odds, founded and launched a movement of service, empowerment, elevating others, and improving conditions that transcends racial and economic barriers. This message of uplift and impact sparked a movement of women engaged in civic duty that endures 11 decades later. She deserves a stamp is our rallying cry. Like the nearly 300,000 members of this great sisterhood, Founder Ethel Hedgeman Lyle's legacy of service to others is why we are advancing this application. She was the visionary spark that ignited a flame that glows even brighter today because of the collective service contributions of our members, tens of millions of volunteer hours, a presence in over 1,012 communities worldwide, deeds of service that touches and improve countless lives, and tens of thousands of college-educated African Americans assisted each year by scholarship dollars from Alpha Kappa Alpha chapters. That is the outgrowth of the deeds launched by our founders when they started planning for this sisterhood in the fall of 1907 on the campus of Howard University. She deserves a stamp is the official theme for our campaign. You have the button in your registration packet. You generated the signatures. We have our charge from Soror Sophia Nelson, who is working closely with us. Now the work begins. We know that a project that will likely transcend this administration is one that has to be carefully nurtured, cultivated, and passed off if we want the work to continue. Our goal is to move this as far as we can between now and July 12th before leaving office. Like Soror Mary Shai Scott and Soror Eva Evans, I know that it is crucial that we keep this project moving forward. Our goal is to get a stamp approved no matter how long it takes. She deserves a stamp. Soror Glenda Baskin Glover, our incoming Supreme Basilisk, and I have conferred, and she agrees that Soror Ethel Hedgeman Lyle deserves a stamp. And we're going to let her administration figure out what they need to do to help advance it. We've talked about this, have we not, Soror Glenda? Come up here, because I don't want them saying she's telling Soror Glenda what to do. So come up here, Soror Glenda. This is important, Sorors. This is our sisterhood. Sorors, we're about bridge programming in Alpha Kappa Alpha. When you came out of Charlotte, you saw so many programs that you've seen before. Soror Norma collected coats and wraps and everything. We collected them again. Soror Faye had a number of economic programs. We did economic programming. Soror Eva had, she had STEM. We put STEM on the Ascend platform. Soror Carolyn had EYL. We took those middle school girls and tracked with them through high school. We don't plan to stop programming because we're changing administration. The staff needs to go on.
Good afternoon, Sorors. Madam Supreme, and to all who are assembled. Yes, we've had conversations about the STEM project. We've made our commitment for the next administration to keep it going, to move it forward. Hopefully, it will take place within the next 7 months, the next 6 months, but if not, we will keep it moving because we plan to make that a reality. And with your help and prayers, we can.
What we're talking about. We know what Soror Sophia says, that one administration is likely to get it approved. The other administration has to bring it forth, get it unveiled, and do all fanfare around that. And so we know that despite what might happen, we're looking to try to get it approved. We know Soror Glenda and her team still would have to bring it to the public. Because you heard the date today, 2019. Right now, that's the schedule we're on to get it put out there in the public. So that's why we're saying what we're saying in terms of when it will happen. So our goal is we want that stamp for our founder, because if we don't get one for Soror Ethel, you know whose 110th is coming up after ours. I'm just saying. And you all know that Soror George and Soror Glenda are not having it. They're not having it. come up again because, again, we are now in an age, our organization is a corporate entity, and certain projects just transcend administration. And so we just wanted to make sure, yes, we just wanted to make sure that you were just aware that despite whatever happens, even if it's approved, this still will be something that another administration, another team will have to bring to the public. And that's a lot of work to bring things to fruition. And so I didn't want to sit and start making plans for someone else without having a conversation. So we talked a lot in the last 6 months about what this is. And we talked about who might possibly take it on and carry it to the next level. So we're not being casual up here. We've given a lot of thought and work and put a lot of planning into what needs to happen from this point forward. So I don't want you to leave thinking, well, what happens if it's not done before July? Because many of you know how government works. So we are realists in our balance.
So as I can also say, there is nothing I like better than working with Sorority County Wilson. Can't you all feel the energy that we have and how we work together? It is the most magnificent, marvelous thing to do for the two of us to work together so well. It's just awesome. So let's give us a round of applause.
Thank you, Sorors. You have to keep it light. We're doing a lot of heavy lifting here. But Sorors, basically what we're here today is that we want you to leave here, and we know the button's oversized, and certainly we don't expect you to wear them out of here. Soror director was going crazy with his large button. But we're going to have smaller buttons made for regional conferences and whatnot because we want the word to get out that when the work starts, and we ask our members to start calling members of Congress to get support in their areas, we want everyone to say, she deserves a stamp. We're not asking for a handout. Soror Ethel Hedge-Malile and those other pioneering founders endured much. And if you don't believe that, one day just decide you're going to take a week and travel across country, go to Kansas City, go to Eufaula, Oklahoma, and see where that is. And imagine how she went there back in the days of yore to teach. And the fact that the state of Oklahoma thought it was so important, her contributions, they named a state highway in the middle of Eufaula, Oklahoma, in honor of our founder. And I want to thank those Midwestern region Sorors who worked on that, who got that through. Because guess what? When we applied for the stamp, the first thing they asked was what kind of support. We had letters from the governor and all kinds of folks, along with a picture of the state highway in Oklahoma to put in the packet. That was important to that cause. And so we're going to be calling upon you in the days and the weeks ahead and months ahead. We know that coming up in February, and Soror Mavis just kind of whispered something to me, we have her birthday coming up around, is it February 10th? I know a lot of folks just know it, yes, February 10th. And so we're looking at putting forth some additional effort there as well. So my charge to all Sorors assembled, to the LNDS team, to the Archives Committee, the STAMP team, and to all who will continue to move this torch to the next level, is to keep the project moving. We are planning to have an activity for members of Congress and to those members who live in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. We're looking, I think it's on or around February 15th, or is it now February 15th, Soror Sophia? I think it's February 15th. We're going to be back here in DC with our Sorors who are members of Congress, hosting a meet and greet so that we can get the word out, starting getting the word out that we're coming with the application, and here's what we need to have happen. We know we have to go through selected key members of Congress in order to make this happen. And so we're going to start the process. So we are going to unveil our website. We're going to mobilize our members around this. And when the time comes, we're going to rally anyone we need to. We are not going to be afraid, ashamed, or embarrassed, because these women served, they served well, and every group out there right now, they are model. Thank you so much. And this is bipartisan. We need bipartisan support for this, so thank you so much. So we're looking to make this happen. So this is a time for bold, decisive action. We're the Sorors that are currently carrying the torch. We're the ones who've been entrusted to make this a reality. I end this charge with a direct quote from Soror Ethel Hedge-Malile. She stated, and I quote, "As long as life lasts and beyond, I shall see the beautiful deeds done to help others less fortunate, and the lovely hands of all the women of Alpha Kappa Alpha outstretched to aid others who are mentally, morally, and physically ill, those who are poor and needy, and I will always thank God that I had a small part in it." for her small part in mobilizing women across the globe and providing unselfish service to others. We believe, no, we know that Soror Ethel Hedgeman's Lyle, our visionary Alpha Kappa Alpha founder, deserves a stamp. We thank you for your current and ongoing support. We thank you to all the program participants today, to our local host committee for all of their hard work, Soror Stacy Mangham and her committee, to Soror Tracy Baker, our founders and chairman, for helping us to put this program together, for Soror Sophia for being here, and to all of you, many of you, and if you were one of the folks that we recognize either regionally or nationally for working on the STAMP project, please stand so we can acknowledge you. You did a lot of work with those signatures, and we are very proud of the award. The regional director, you can stand with this crowd because you helped us get the charge out about the stamp. Let's give all of these ladies and sorors a round of applause. This is our call to action. We will make a stamp on history, and we will say very proudly, she deserves a stamp, and we are working to make sure that it happens. So again, thank you so much for being here for this program. This is our call to action. At this time, sorors, as we finish this program, I need you to pull out your agenda book. We need to make some changes to the agenda book. So this is like at a Boule at a regional conference now. We have to do a little bit of business before we move on to the next program. As you know, many of you have relatives and you have children and grandchildren and others at Howard University and other universities in this area, or you may work in this area. And you know that the cold snap of the last 2 weeks, that was real. A lot of institutions, including Howard, they're dealing with broken pipes, all kinds of things as a result of the cold weather. And that obviously is going to affect what we do here in Washington, D.C. this weekend. So what we want to do at this point is to make you aware of some changes. So please pull your agenda booklet out and go to the page, my sorors, on page 10 and 11. If you can start there. Schedule at a glance and the schedule of activities. On page 10, this has nothing to do with Howard. This just has to do with we need to turn this room tonight. We're going to start our Founders Day reception at 8:30. So where you see Founders Day reception, instead of 8 to 11, pencil in 8:30 to 11:30 tonight. 8:30, and tell the sorors who are not here, 8:30 to 11:30. Okay, that's the first change. Now the next change is a little bit more complicated, so I need you to listen carefully, sorors. First of all, we've added an activity. So on Saturday morning at 8:08 a.m., Saturday morning at 8:08 a.m., we will have our Founders Memorial Service. That will be held here in this ballroom at 8:08 a.m. The doors will close at 8:08 and we will not reopen the doors because we're paying tribute to our founders and we don't need movement during that. You don't want to miss that special celebration. We're going to pay tribute to our founders in song. We will have a special presentation to Howard University that you will not want to miss. And we will also just spend time in reverent meditation, reflecting on what it means to be in the sisterhood that has endured 11 decades. And so Saturday morning at 8:08, we are officially kicking off our day. Our commemorative day, that time at 8:08 a.m. If you're in the group that was scheduled to be in the first group that was going to go over on the campus at 8:08, you know who you are. Immediately after that service, that first group, we're going to depart because the campus, going across the campus in that pilgrimage, we're still going to do that on Saturday. So you will still go over in the group that you're assigned to go over, and we're just going to start the morning here as a one mass group, then we'll break off and go on campus in the groups in which you were assigned. We have a special unveiling that will take place when you go on the campus. You're going to see something there that was not there a week ago. And so you will want to go on the campus if for no other reason to see that. But a part of what is happening on campus at Howard, and those of us who either had recent college graduates or have children in school now, have had children in school and grandchildren, you have a soft spot for this. You know that when your relatives are in school and when it's time for them to go back, you don't want to hear about anything happening that will prevent that from happening. And so with the school now having to spend their resources trying to get the dormitories ready for our young folks, we didn't want to be in buildings on Saturday utilizing resources that we know will probably be needed for the young folks because school has already been pushed back 1 week and maybe possibly a second week And so we don't want to be in that situation. It's not a good look for us, and we don't want to put Howard in that situation. So we're going to go on campus on Saturday, and we're going to march around the campus, do what we need to do, and then come back here for those activities that were scheduled at Howard in the Blackburn Center. You'll see those in your book on page 19. All of that will be happening back here on site in this ballroom. So there will be activities all day Saturday in this room. So once you finish touring, come back here. There'll be things going on in this ballroom. So we will not be going inside any building on Saturday at Howard. Don't ask the staff to let you in, please, because they can't. They have to work on getting this building ready. Plus, I understand there was some damage to some buildings and need to get things back together. We're still waiting on an answer as to whether or not Moreland will be open with our historic artifacts. That may or may not happen. We're just waiting to hear. But we don't want to put a lot of pressure on them. Right now, they have to worry about the students. That is their priority. That's their focus. And so for us, what we will do on Saturday, we will come here at the beginning of the day, have our program, leave, come back, and then, of course, you already knew, because I've gotten so many calls from so many of you saying, now, I know you don't expect us to stand in that cold at night. That's how a lot of you all talk to me now. We're on a first-name basis. Let me think about it. I thought about it like 1 minute. I said, no, we'll move the candlelight vigil inside. Then I called Sorority Beverly Bryant. I said, Sorority, because the candlelight vigil was her idea, and I wanted to honor her. I said, Sorority, we're going to move it inside. We're still going to do it. She said, that's all right. Go right ahead, Soror Dorothy. So on Saturday night, we will be in a beautiful black with our infinity scarf. Sorors, don't wear your scarves before Saturday. Saturday is our Founders Day scarf day. So wear that on Saturday, and we'll be here with, you can wear it all day Saturday, not just Saturday night, but on Saturday night we'll be in here for the candlelight vigil. So everything that was going to happen on campus will happen here. So you'll still get your Founders Day experience, and you'll go on campus. And we will go to all the historic places on campus that we need to see where our imprint is. So, sorors, for those who are not here, please spread the word that we did have these changes, because we don't want to cause any confusion for Howard University or for those young people who are attempting to get back into school for this semester. So are there any questions about that? And then the only other thing I need to say to you, sorors, on page 12, if you can make a change, I mentioned to you earlier that Soror Matilia B. Grace will not be here at this event. So on Sunday morning for rededication, that will be led by Soror Norma Solomon White. So please make a change there, 25th Supreme Basileus. And I believe that is it for the changes to the agenda. So we thank you for your patience with that. Okay. Sorors, we're going to, at this time, convene this program. We have our history video unveiling that will start shortly. We're very excited about that. Other sorors are not joining us. And so just spend the next 15 minutes, we could have some music. Just enjoy yourselves, and we will come back to you with our next program in a very short period of time. Thank you.